The state of your home is a direct reflection of your mind. A clean house isn't just about tidiness, it's about your identity and how you relate to your environment, and if a messy space drains you or quietly makes you anxious. This video might change the way you see your home. Because here's what most people don't realize. There are people who can live in clutter and barely notice it. And then there are people who walk into a slightly messy room and something just feels off. Not overwhelming, not chaotic, just off. And they can't fully relax until something changes. They sit down, but their eyes keep drifting. They try to focus, but their attention doesn't stay where they want it. They tell themselves it's not a big deal, but something in their body stays tense. There's this quiet pressure in the background, like something is unfinished, even if you can't point to exactly what. And the strange part is, it's not always a big mess. Sometimes it's just a few things out of place. A surface that feels unclear. A room that doesn't feel settled, but it still affects you. It changes how you sit, how you think, how long you stay in that space. If that's you, this isn't about being clean or organized. It's about what your brain does when your environment feels unresolved. Your brain doesn't separate your environment from your thoughts as much as you think it does. Everything around you is being processed constantly. That pile of clothes, the cup you left earlier, the small things you said you'd deal with later. Even when you're not consciously thinking about them, your brain is still tracking them. There's a concept in psychology called cognitive load. It's the amount of mental effort your brain is using at any given moment, and clutter increases that load quietly. Every object that's out of place becomes a small mental reminder. It sits in the background of your awareness, like a tab that never closes, and one tab doesn't feel like much. But 10, 20, now your brain is carrying all of that at the same time. That's why a messy environment doesn't just look messy. It feels heavy. You might not notice it right away, but over time, it shows up as low energy, shorter patience, difficulty focusing, that feeling of being mentally off. And then something small happens. You clean one thing, just one, and suddenly you feel lighter, not because the task was big, but because your brain finally closed one of those open loops, and it recognizes the difference immediately. But this goes deeper than just mental load, because for a lot of people, cleaning isn't really about cleaning. It's about control. Think about how much of your life feels unpredictable. People don't respond the way you expect. Plans change. Things don't go the way you thought they would. And over time, that creates a quiet background tension. You might not call it anxiety, but it's there. And your brain is constantly trying to stabilize it. Now look at your environment. Your space is one of the few places where your actions create immediate results. You clean something, it stays clean. You organize something, it makes sense. There's no delay, no uncertainty, just cause and effect. And every time you restore order to your space, you send a signal to your brain. I can handle things. That signal matters more than you think, because your brain is always looking for evidence. Evidence that things are manageable. Evidence that you're capable. Evidence that something is under control. And your environment becomes one of the easiest ways to provide that proof. So let me ask you something. When your space gets messy, do you feel it immediately? Or do you only notice it when it gets really bad? Drop a comment and tell me which one you are, because that difference says more about how your mind works than you might realize. Now here's where everything changes. Most people think this is about discipline. It's not. People who keep their space clean consistently are not forcing themselves every day. They've shifted identity. At some point through repetition, they stopped thinking, I should clean, and started living as, I'm someone who keeps things in order. That shift is subtle, but powerful, because your brain always tries to stay consistent with who you believe you are. If you see yourself as messy, you'll tolerate mess. You'll ignore it, delay it, work around it. But if you see yourself as someone who takes care of your space, you'll notice when things feel off. And that noticing becomes action, not forced, just automatics. That's how habits are built, not through discipline, but through identity. There's also a neurological reason this becomes easier over time. Your brain rewards completion. Every time you finish a small task, you get a small release of dopamine. Not enough to feel exciting, but enough to feel that's better. And that feeling is important because it creates a loop. You clean one thing, You feel slightly better. So you clean another, and another, and before you realize it, your entire environment feels different. That's not discipline. That's your brain learning what relief feels like. And once it recognizes that, it starts to seek it. But let's be honest, sometimes mess isn't about habits. Sometimes it's a reflection of what's happening internally. When you're overwhelmed, your space often reflects that. Things pile up, not because you don't care, but because your energy is already being used somewhere else, and then something subtle happens. The mess around you starts reinforcing how you feel. You walk into your space, and instead of feeling relief, you feel resistance, like you don't even want to deal with it. So you avoid it, and the longer you avoid it, the heavier it feels. Now it's not just a mess, it's pressure, and that pressure keeps you stuck. And if you pay attention, there's usually a moment where you notice it. You walk past something and pause for half a second. You think, I should fix that, but you don't. Not because you can't, but because it feels like it's going to take more energy than you have. So you leave it, and then later, you see it again. And now, it's not just an object. It's a reminder that something is unfinished, a reminder that you avoided it, a reminder that it's still there. And that's where the weight comes from. Not the mess itself, but the relationship you have with it. Because over time, those small moments add up, and what you're really carrying isn't the environment. It's the accumulation of things you didn't close. Now compare that to a clean space. Not perfect, just clear. You walk in, and something shifts. Your body relaxes slightly. Your breathing slows. Your mind feels less crowded. That's not just psychological. That's your nervous system responding. Your environment is constantly sending signals. An order sends one very clear message: you're safe. And when your brain feels safe, it finally lets go. There's also a reason you suddenly feel the urge to clean when you're overwhelmed. You feel restless, unfocused, mentally scattered. And then you start fixing something. That's not random. That's your brain trying to stabilize itself. Action creates structure, and structure calms your system. You're not just cleaning your space, you're regulating your state. So how do you apply this? You don't try to fix everything. That's the mistake. You just stop letting things build. You catch things early. You reset small things immediately. Instead of, I'll clean later. You shift to, I'll finish this now. And that small shift changes everything. Because now, nothing lingers long enough to become overwhelming. At the end of the day, this isn't about having a perfect home. It's about how your environment affects you. Because your space is one of the few places where your internal world becomes visible. And how you treat that space quietly shapes how you feel every single day. So try this. For the next 7 days, pick one small area, just one, and keep it clear. Not perfect, just consistent. And notice what changes, not just in your space, but in how you think, how you feel, how you show up. And if this felt a little too familiar, like you've been experiencing this, but never really understood why, make sure you subscribe, because this is just one piece of how your environment shapes your mind and how your mind shapes your life.